This is video 4, and we're going to cover what the buyer needs. When they say that they need something, should you give it to them? So let's say let's assume in this case they're coming in on the inbound line. And they're like, I need sales training. Should you give it to them?
Oh, you shouldn't give buyer anything they ask for. It's not freaking, we're not a grocery store, we're not 7-Eleven. No, no.
And why shouldn't you?
Because it's not 7-Eleven. There's a cost to doing it wrong. There's a cost to you, to them, to everybody involved. So if you don't know why you're selling it to them, don't sell it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Period. End of discussion.
Why
Easiest, fastest.
What if why I'm selling it per diem? Why I'm selling it to them is because they say they need it. They said they want it.
So what? People want shit all the time.
What's the danger of that, though?
Well, let's start with them first. If they end up buying the wrong thing that doesn't fit, that doesn't solve the problem, they spend lots of money on it, and it doesn't work. Okay, so there's that first part. You sell people something.
Why would they buy the wrong thing?
Because they misdiagnose their own situation. They don't understand the problems. A lot of times they're trying to solve a root cause. It hasn't really manifested itself into a business problem. The impact isn't high enough. A million different reasons. I mean, we buy stuff we shouldn't buy all the time, right? Once it's in, we're like, oh God, I wish I had known, right? I mean, here's a stupid example, and this is a transactional thing. That's why I'm saying it. Like, I went to the store many years ago and said, I want to drill. No pun intended, not because I wanted a fucking hole. And I didn't know the difference between I gave you 2 examples. I didn't know the difference between I'm going to butcher an 18 megahertz drill and a 24 megahertz drill. I just bought, they were both red by the same company. One was more expensive. I didn't get it because I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah. What's the difference between the 2 drills?
Power.
So
I didn't know. I got the cheaper one. It was 18 gigahertz, megahertz. I don't know what the fucking thing is called. Whatever. And then the 24 one had more power. So when they tried drilling long screws into hardwoods or something like that, they didn't go, or it would strip because it didn't have enough power to drive the screw in. It's like, oh, there's a difference. Like, there's actually a difference. This one's kind of embarrassing, but I'll make fun of myself. But also, several years ago when I went to buy those portable charger things? Yeah, like one was like, I'm making this up. One was like 69, it was like 99, it was 129, and that one was like, I'm making up. I don't know. It was like, I don't even know how they measured it, but let's say it was like 70 something, and then 90 something, or 200 something. I didn't understand that the 200 something was you could charge your phone 6 times. We had to recharge that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I didn't understand that. I guess a lot of people smarter than me.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand that. So I didn't understand why are they so much more expensive. So I bought the cheap one, and now you can only charge your phone twice before you have to recharge that. And had someone walk me through it and ask me questions. How long are you on the road? Blah, blah. I would have bought the one that you charge 1 time and you charge your phone 3 times. Am I making any sense? So that shit that costs $100 and we fuck it up. If you don't think people are fucking up giant purchases to try to turn their business around, and they're just going to say, I know what I want, it's going to work, they're being idiots. They're being idiots.
Yeah. So you think that the main driver is they don't know what they don't know, and so when they say that they need something, they might be wrong.
Yeah. Or they're right, but they're not going to nail it. I needed a drill. Yes, I needed a drill, so I wasn't wrong. I needed a power charger. I wasn't wrong.
Right.
But which power driver, how much I should spend, and all of that is different.
So why do you think that people are so adamant when they come in?
Turn this into an interview. She's good.
So why do you think people are so adamant when they come in and they say they need something?
Because they don't see the value in the salespeople.
So how can a salesperson overcome that?
I don't know. How do you think a salesperson can overcome that, Becc?
No. Wait.
Yes, Becc. I just set us up. Now you can drive us home.
I was curious. No, but I really want your perspective on that piece. Just give me one more, and then I'll switch. So how do you think that a salesperson can overcome that when a buyer comes in very heatedly and they're like,
tactically, how can they do it?
Yeah. Like, how can they overcome that in the room of? Because I see that a lot with sellers. They're like, well. Sometimes they're just caving under pressure because they're like, this person comes in all riled up that they need something and don't want you to ask them questions. So how can they guts?
You gotta have guts, first and foremost. And you can say, listen, Becc, I really appreciate you'd love to see our new guided selling application. I understand you're using one now. But the assumption is the one you're using now is probably, the reason you want to talk to me is probably there's something wrong with it. It's not supporting everything you need to do, and you hope ours can make a difference. But before I feel comfortable giving you pricing, giving you a proposal, and even selling this to you, it's important for me to understand what's going on in your current environment today, what is happening today within that environment, what is the current solution doing or not doing, what are the impacts of that, how is it negatively affecting you? When I understand that, then I'll feel comfortable. So if you can give me a little bit of time to ask some questions, to understand what's happening today and why we're even here, I'd really appreciate it. And if they say, no, I don't have time for this, just show me, I say, this we have to have courage. I say, sorry, I'm uncomfortable doing this, and if and when you're ready to help me understand what's going on, I'd be more than happy to show it to you. But if not, I'm uncomfortable, and I'm not willing to go down that road and have you cancel my service or be upset with me or be unhappy with this solution 6 months down the road. I'd rather you just do it from somebody else.
So you will not show them product?
No. Nope.
Interesting.
Nope. I can give you examples where I've literally said, I don't think we're going to fit because I don't know what to, you're not letting me do a discovery, so I'm out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like there's a difference. There's some buyers that are like adamant about it, and then it's like, okay, that's a whole nother
Yeah, I don't play with outliers. Like when it comes to giving advice or having conversations like this, people that want to tend to move to the outliers.
Yeah.
I don't move to outliers, and my favorite reason is this: there are people who have jumped out of planes whose parachutes did not open and they survived. That should never be part of the conversation of skydiving safety, right? That should never be part of the conversation, right? So why did you even bring it up, right? So just because that one guy said, oh, I'm not gonna do it, fuck you and walk away, I don't care. Like, that should not be part of the conversation.
It's good.
That was it. What are your thoughts, Becc? What should they do, Becc?
Oh my gosh, Keenan asked a question. Oh my gosh.
I asked a question before. I said,
sweating.
Wait a minute. I literally said 5 minutes ago, Becc, no, what do you?
I'm just joking.
I'm like, wait a minute.
Just messing with you. Way tactically that I've seen, because I do think there's legitimacy to why sellers want to cough up the information, because it can be awkward for them. And when someone, a lot of people are people pleasers, myself being one of them to a degree. Someone says that they want something, someone says they need something.
I must not be a people.
And so, it's because of my question thing. It's because of my question thing. You had to get me back. You had to get me back. And you just want to please someone, and someone says they want something, and so out of pressure, a lot of people can buckle. I think that the legitimacy to what you're saying, though, of like you're out for their best interest if you are challenging, not challenging outright, that's not the goal, but you're asking questions to understand if what they say they need based on why they say they need it and the data that you can acquire, like whether that's the appropriate thing and or is there something faster, better, cheaper that they can achieve the same goal?
Yeah.
Tactically, I think the biggest thing for me on the front end of, I think to your point, people aren't used to getting value from sellers.
Nope.
And so they come in assuming that's their default. And so I like to get into the habit of, it kind of reminds me of, have you ever heard of, I know that you don't like history, or origin stories.
I'm like, wait a minute, I'm just buff. I'm like,
so, have you ever heard of where the word tip comes from, like to tip someone?
Yeah, we talked about this. And I think we have different belief systems, but most people believe the concept of tipping came from racism in America because black people were not paid or paid very, 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 very little in all the hospitality industries back in the 20s, 10s. And so the only way they could ever make money is people who were a little more empathetic towards them would give them a little money on the side.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't heard that. I had heard it come from that it stands for to ensure promptness. And basically, people at the beginning of a meal used to tip at the start to make sure that you would go faster. And so now we've kind of rearranged it to where on the back end, people are going to tip you. So like a bartender, I like this. I was a bartender for a while, and I couldn't tell who was going to tip me the most. So I'd basically tend to everyone equally. but they would teach you basically that how you tip a bartender if you want them to.
You tip them huge up front.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
You order
one drink, you give them like $10.
You give them $10,
Yeah.
and then you put your card down.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's what salespeople can do in the sales floor of like teach them something early.
Yeah.
So that they're positive, like. And I've seen people swing the door wide open once you teach them just one thing. So I like to throw in there like early, especially if they're kind of like bullying. Again, throw out the outliers of the people who are just being mean for whatever reason. But I like to give them some piece of data point early. Like for instance, I'll say, so what's your open rate on emails? And they'll say, so our open rate is around they'll say it's really, really low, so it's actually 30%. I'll say, actually, so industry average is 15 to 20, so you're actually doing a little bit better, than most, most generally speaking. And I can tell just in that moment of like you put a little cash up front, and they're like, oh, okay, cool. I can open up the information, so they know that like the 30 minutes when you're asking questions isn't just a waste of their time.
So I think, I like that. What I struggle with, what I really struggle with when it comes to conversations like this and what we're going to do in a couple of hours, hopefully I get to take a nap, is conveying what good looks like. And the reason is, not all the time, like anything else, because I say gap selling's like golf, you can still put it in the drink, or hit the sand trap. But when I'm on my game, or when other gap sellers are on the game, particularly people in my organization, people open up because of the questions we ask. And the types of questions we ask. And we have literally had people say to us, oh my God, if my people can do what you just did to me, this will be a game changer for us. Like our demo, oddly enough, is our discovery.
Totally.
And the questions we asked very early and in our 2 or 3 follow-on questions, open the floodgates. But I don't know how to teach that any more than I've already, as low as I can go. Like I don't know what to do after that. So to me, it's less about, equally about giving them a little piece up front. I've learned to give people stuff up front by asking a question they hadn't thought of.
Totally.
Yes, like, oh, didn't even think about that. So now they want to go on the rides like, what else haven't I thought about? Holy shit, this guy just asked a question. I wasn't thinking about this. This is material to our decision process. Please ask more questions.
Yeah. I try to do both, because I notice the deeper that I go in discovery, specifically when they realize that I'm not asking them questions that most people ask them.
Yes.
Like I'm asking questions that the only reason you would need them, like I'm like, how many content downloads do you get roughly per month, and where are they being lead routed? And you can tell, like, for better or for worse, like, that's not a question of like, do you have any pain?
Yes,
it's like
it's
clearly
called a process question. Yep.
Totally. So I try to do both. Some buyers I feel like just to get like the gears turning a little bit, like sometimes they need a little bit of coaxing in, and I'm trying to either through telling them something of like an industry stat, or to your point, asking them questions. And I think people struggle with the idea of like, well, how do I ask a question that adds value? And I'm like, well, a question that adds value means that afterwards they know something, or they're thinking about something in a different way than you were before the question.
Question that adds value is one that gets them to think.
So I try to veer away from the situational current state questions like right in the beginning, because a lot of times it can be like, what CRM are you using? What sales engagement tool are you using? And there's no value from like
no value to them
to
whatsoever.
Their perspective. So I try to veer away from those early. But I think to your point, asking questions can be equally as valuable. But I think it's not only an ethical, it makes you
Wait, what's unethical?
Giving someone what they say they need.
Yeah.
If you give them that, you're giving them a dose of what is likely wrong.
You're an order taker.
Yeah, and you're giving them a dose of what's likely incorrect.
Like
and
the doctor.
So I think, to your point, I know that the one side of it is that I think you mentioned the buyer in the beginning, right? So the buyer basically doesn't get necessarily what they need.
Yeah, we didn't even talk to the seller side. Long sales cycles, deals that don't close, losing to the status quo, surprise, none of it works.
And you're going to have to hurl some random email at them of like, hey, just checking up here, because you have no idea what the trigger is or what happens to them if they don't. But I think I'm actually really glad that we started on buyer and stayed on buyer for basically the whole time.
Because that's all that matters.
Yeah.
You take care of the buyer, you take care.
Shit, yeah, Keenan.
Close. End of
Shit,
discussion.
yeah.
Next.
That's what matters is the buyers. This was Per Diem, episode 4, what a buyer needs and says that they need. Should you sell to it, and why or why not? Thanks for tuning in.